Imagine leaving your house at 10 p.m. with the mindset that you are going to drive through the night until the sun comes up. Now, add in the fact that your bedtime is 9:30 p.m. and you never stay up past midnight. Well, that is what I was facing. I carried my shotgun with me and my Bible, figured that would be about all I needed. No extra clothes, no extra underwear, just me and the open road. Things went well until about 2:45 a.m. I'm on Highway 67 just south of Winfield, Louisiana. I'm driving the speed limit when I see this cop behind me with his lights on. At first I'm thinking, okay, this is a trooper and there is an emergency, so he is gonna come speeding past me. Right? Well, wrong. He gets right up on my tail and pulls me over, jumps out of the car, moving fast, flashlight in hand, shining it inside my truck. Then he bangs on the window and demands that I get out. Now, I'm not sure what kind of emotional roller coaster this guy is on. Being a former cop, I understand that we are all just men. For all I knew, he just found out his wife was sleeping with his brother and his dog has cancer. What I did know was that we were all alone on the side of the road and it was 3 a.m. Prime time for some crazy stuff to happen and one of us loses our lives. So I roll the window down, smile and say, "Hey officer, what can I do for you?" That is when I get a good look at his eyes and there is this look of panic and anger. He says, "Sir, please step out." I tell him I'm a retired cop and I have done nothing that requires me to step out of my vehicle. Now he is shining the light at the bed of my truck and he says, "Sir, please step out of the vehicle." He nods his head, motioning toward the back of the truck, and I notice he has his hand on his weapon. So I step out and he pulls me to the front of the truck and I'm expecting him to pat me down. Instead, he starts to whisper. He says, "Sir, I pulled you over because I'm not sure what I saw in the back of your truck, but it was freaky and weird. I can't explain it to you. I need to have a closer look." It was right there, in that moment, I was shown something. Call it a vision, call it whatever you want. But it was a spider jumping from one part of a web to another. And as he walked away, God spoke and said, "Stop him." "Sir," I said, "1 second. I don't think you should check it alone. I have my shotgun. We will go together." He said I could come with him, but he didn't want me with the shotgun, so we went, circled around the driver's side of my truck, headed to the back. Then we didn't have these hard-top covers like people do today. We had the soft-top truck bed covers, and as we are moving, he shines the light, and that soft black cloth cover is moving. As he shifts that light around, we notice it has a slit in it like it's been cut open with a knife in an arching motion. You know how in those movies they have those jump scare scenes that make you almost poop your pants? It was lining up to be one of those moments for the two of us, but this was way worse than any movie. Because this long, skinny, pale forearm comes out of that slit. And the craziest thing was the closer it got to the wrist, the wider and bigger things got. The wrist was wide and the hands were wide and the fingers were long and thick. The forearm is so long that this thing is feeling around, reaching over the side of the bed of the truck like it's searching. The two of us look at each other and he signals, "Yeah, you better get that shotgun." So I tiptoe open the door, grab the shotgun. We were in the process of signaling what we were going to do to make sure that we would not be in a crossfire when, not if, but when, we started shooting. When this thing comes tearing through the fabric. Listen, I have seen a lot. I mean, a lot of terrifying, pardon my language, stuff in the woods. But this was something I had never seen. From the trunk emerges a gaunt, pale, humanoid creature, almost translucent with these deep, sunken eyes. But it hung from the bones as if it had this flexibility. It's hard to explain. But what was most terrifying was its head was upside down. It had these sunken-in black eyes. It's looking at us, and its mouth is moving up and down like it's talking, and its teeth are making this clacking noise, a chatter. Then it leaps, while looking down at us, off and at an angle, landing 25 feet to the right off the edge of the tree line next to the road, and then blends in with the trees. Understand by blending in, I mean it's there, the light is on it, and then it blends in right in front of us and disappears. When I tell you that the cop looks at me with this look of fear unlike anything I have ever seen, it was like his heart was about to stop beating. This man was no more than 26 years old. His face was turning blue. It was like he was experiencing heart failure. He stumbles back towards his car, and he is just looking at me. I say, "Are you okay?" And he says, "I don't know what I just saw." Listen, then this cop walks around to his car, gets in the vehicle, and leaves me standing there on the side of the road in the darkness. I'm like, okay, I'm getting the hell out of here. We're going to pause right here, and let me explain something to you, or better yet, let me ask you a question. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where it seems like all hell is breaking loose on all sides? I mean, in every aspect of your life, things are going wrong. Your health, your finances, your relationships. It's an attack on your life. I mean that definitively. I had no clue that what was taking place at this moment was one of the worst attacks my family and I would ever experience. By family, I mean everyone you have heard me speak of in this story. However, this was the launch of an attack unlike anything I have ever seen. While I was on the side of the road, Gordon was under siege, and if that was not bad enough, back home, my wife was calling Warren to come to the house because something was beating on the back door. When she went to take a look, it looked exactly like what I had just encountered. However, in that moment, I didn't know that was going on, and she had no way of contacting me. Down in the swamps of Louisiana, Gordon was wide awake. He had already vehemently expressed his desire to leave, and the other two men thought he was going crazy. That was until the walking on the roof of the cabin started. We are talking about the swamps of Louisiana, raised cabins on stilts 12 feet in the air, making the rooftops 30 feet above the ground. It was when that walking, the sound of wood bending, started that they decided that something might be going on and all met up in the living room. Gordon told them the best thing to do was to wait and leave at sunrise, and even then, there was no way to guarantee they would be safe. However, most men, those who have never seen strange things, underestimate the danger of the supernatural. Call it arrogance, call it pride, I call it stupidity. Well, that combination reared its ugly head, and William, the man who drove them down there, decided to go outside with a rifle. Imagine for a moment the front door opens to pitch blackness, and according to Gordon, he knew it was a huge problem when the light from the flashlight scanned the water. Alligators' eyes glow red at night, this bright red. Well, when that light shines over the swamp, there are 15 alligators in the water, some on the left and others on the right. However, in between are 3 sets of eyes glowing this amber yellow. Gordon knew right then in that moment they were in major trouble. What made it worse was these bright red eyes of the gators were all looking at the amber eyes, and the amber eyes were looking right at the front door. There was a swath of land, about 50 feet before the water's edge, just enough for the steps to be placed. Those amber eyes were 20 yards away from the water's edge. Gordon told me that he knew this was a setup. So I tell William to come back inside. There was this porch, and you know how when there is a covered porch, there is an edge of the roof, right? Well, Williams is walking towards that edge of the covered porch, and you can hear something is above. So Gordon grabs him and pulls him back, and William starts to tussle with him, calling him crazy. This goes on for a few seconds, Gordon staying close to the entrance to the door, when you hear this splash of water. Gordon said they heard and felt this thing jump from the roof. He was not sure if the earth gave way when it landed on the ground, but all he knew at that moment was something jumped from the roof and hit the water. When he shone his light, he saw its back, black fur, and this giant hump. That was enough, and he said, "Screw it." Ran inside to the room he had, closed the door, and he started praying. He said it took a moment for the other 2 guys to comprehend what they were seeing. But when they did, he said the sounds they made, these men, those sounds of fear were unlike anything he ever heard. Then there was a slamming of the door and the furniture moving and just all this commotion. Gordon said he knew the only thing that could help them was God. Now here is the weird thing, according to Gordon. He was praying, his adrenaline was pumping, fear raging, and then the next thing he knew, he was asleep. Woke up the next morning on the floor, back hurting, feet numb, below hurting, and when he walked out of the room, the other 2 men looked like they had been rode hard and hung up wet. They just looked at him and said, "How could you sleep through that, all that growling and splashing?" According to Gordon, he heard nothing. They took Gordon up to the local store and left him there. He said the fear on these two men was so intense that they could barely speak. When I finally arrived, he was at a small diner having coffee. He tells me this entire story of what happened, and he is laughing as he explains. When he was praying, he said, "Lord, I can't take this. I don't want to die like this. I feel so much fear. I just wish I could go to sleep and you fast forward to when it's time for me to go home." He is laughing and says that's exactly what happened. Little did I know that while Gordon and I were okay, my wife's son and Warren were under siege in a way I would have never imagined was possible.